818-jklpuzo is the first episode of the 7th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by James Widdoes, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. Definitely not a bad start to the season. It really helps us to pick up where we left off, and if you hadn't seen the episodes in a couple of months, if you watched this when they were first airing, it's a good way to recap where we are with certain characters. That being said, based purely on personal preference, not a fault of the episode, but based on personal preference, I don't love it. And the main reason for that is that I'm not really bothered about Chelsea, I'm not really bothered about Mia, and while I like the character, I'm not really bothered about Melissa either, and they are the main focus in this. But there were still a lot of elements that I really enjoyed, and it does start off where we left, with the last episode in the coffee shop with Mia, Charlie and Alan. And Mia actually is trying to launch her singing career, and she asks Charlie for some help, and Charlie's not comfortable with this because he's with Chelsea now. And as Mia leaves the coffee shop, she turns to Charlie and says, "I've missed you," which is sweet. Most people would want to hear that they were missed, but at the same time it's really messing with Charlie's head. And Alan kind of prods him, pokes the bear a little bit, and Charlie throws coffee all over him, and Alan gives us a great bit of physical comedy. We're then back at the house, and Jake happens to tell Berta that the baby kind of looks like a girl version of Alan. And you can imagine what Berta said in response, that Alan looked like a girl version of Alan. And maybe seeds are being planted with what Jake's thinking about, and we get quite a dramatic moment immediately after when Charlie and Alan come into the house and they're talking about the baby, and Alan happens to say, "We don't know she's my daughter." And Jake appears in the doorway and says, "Who's your daughter?" And Alan, I guess, managed to save it. It doesn't seem like at this point Jake's really thinking too deeply into it, but it was a really dramatic moment. I really, really liked it. Charlie's then talking with Chelsea, and Chelsea suggests that maybe Charlie could help Mia with her singing career. If he genuinely has no feelings for her now, what's the problem? And I guess she had a valid point. If Charlie really isn't interested in her anymore, what harm could it do? And we see that Alan's back with Melissa again, which is nice. I'm happy for Alan, but again, Mia, Chelsea and Melissa have basically been the topic of the previous season, that in the and I don't find it to be that interesting, so I'm not that bothered, but it's purely personal preference, nothing wrong with the episode. And, well, it turns out Mia's not a brilliant singer. She's still better than I am, but she's not a brilliant singer, as Charlie learns when he's playing the piano with her. It starts off quite well, and then I guess the more she gets into it, the less control she has, and then Charlie goes to see Dr. Freeman, in theory about constipation. But actually, he's very confused about the whole Mia and Chelsea situation, and Dr. Freeman basically deduces that he's constipated because he has these feelings basically causing him to tighten up. And she has a valid point, and she basically told him, "You need to pick one," which I think is fair. But to be honest, I don't think he needs to pick one. I think he needs to realise that he shouldn't even have any thoughts about Chelsea. Maybe if Chelsea is the ultimate love of his life, then maybe it's a case of picking one. But I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think he's in a situation where it is about picking one. It's about realising he's with Chelsea. Yeah, one could argue that it's better for him to, if he wanted to pick Mia so he doesn't marry the wrong person and then regret it for the rest of his life. But I don't know, from where I'm sitting, I feel like it's less about him wanting to be with Mia forever and more about just old feelings being dug up and Charlie not really sure what to do with those. And Charlie even, in his confusion, says to Alan, "I may have to sleep with Mia," which in my opinion is one of the most stupid things Charlie's ever said, and that's saying something. We then have a really great scene. We have this recording session where Chelsea's recording her songs and Charlie's there, and it's a lot of fun. I really liked it, and it's not going very well vocally, and she thinks it is. She listens back to her singing. She's really happy. She kisses Charlie, and it seems like in that moment, Charlie could very easily say, "I want to be with you." But when she's back in the booth, he says to her, well, he tells her the truth about everything. "You're not a great singer. I'm with Chelsea. We can't be together." And I have to say, I don't think that Mia's feelings were valid in that moment, because she is basically about to shout at Charlie, but she kissed somebody who was engaged to be married. clearly in a flirtatious way. It wasn't a quick peck on the cheek. To me, there was definitely some attraction there. She was definitely trying to attract Charlie. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good person. That's not a good look for anybody. So I don't care if in that moment he hurt her feelings. And he never led her on. So she has no right to be upset that he said he's going to be with Chelsea. Yes, she probably has a right to be upset that he said she can't sing. But at the same time, if she comes to him for help, he is kind of allowed to tell her the truth. And Charlie just mutes her, so he can't hear her from the booth, and he goes to the bathroom, in theory, to relieve his constipation, and he happens to bump into Eddie Van Halen. And it's a decent episode. As I said, it's quite a strong start. It's not my personal favourite, based purely on the fact that I don't mind Chelsea, Mia, or Melissa, but we've had a lot of focus on those relationships recently, and for me, it got quite repetitive, especially with Charlie. But what I do love is that we definitely have a maturity with Charlie. The character, throughout the entire last season, and of course the beginning of this season, we are seeing a lot of growth and maturity, some really great character development. I think that part of it is very, very well written. And of course we have some dramatic moments here with Alan saying, "We don't know she's my daughter," and Jake hearing that. And it's great. It's a great episode. I can't fault it. Not a personal favourite, but nevertheless, 818-jklpuzo is still a brilliant episode and a solid start to the 7th season of 2.5 Men.